Happy New Year, NEC Hoops fans. We are back with the latest NEC On the Run podcast. I am Ron Ratner, Senior Associate Commissioner of the Northeast Conference. I'm here with Ryan Peters, our special guest, a blogger for the NEC Overtime blog. We're going to bring you all the latest happenings. Week 1 of conference play is in the books. So let's just go right at it, Ryan. What are this weekend's takeaways?
I mean, Ron, you have to talk about Robert Morris to start the year at 2-0. It's the third straight year Andy Toole has done this. And at RMU Basketball, the Twitter handle, they use hashtag grit a lot. And Andy Toole's been winning with grit a lot of these years. But now the offense has really stepped up. This is probably the best offensive team I've seen out of them since their championship team in 2015. You know, the offense, they put up 93 against Central Connecticut. And then they took care of business against a really good Merrimack 2-3 zone. You know, they have kind of a two-headed monster at the point guard. You know, they have Dante Tracy and John Williams, and then you flank that with Josh Williams, who is already a terrific player, but he's taken his efficiency level up another notch now, making more than 40% of his threes for the year. So, and you got AJ Brahma, who we're going to talk about a lot later on. He's doing the heavy lifting down low for Andy Toole. So offensively, this team is dynamic. Andy Toole no longer has to rely on generating turnovers, scoring off those turnovers. He could actually fill it up, too, on the other end.
Robert Morris lately really shooting well from the perimeter. It's sort of given that team a whole new dimension to their offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Josh Williams has always been a great perimeter shooter, but now John Williams and Dante Tracy, who I mentioned, they're making threes. They're stretching out the defense. And, you know, the thing that I like about this team is they're sharing the basketball. 41 assists on 58 made baskets in 2 NEC games for a 70.7% assist to field goals made ratio. That's terrific. And they also lead the league in assist to turnover ratio, 1.4, which is terrific. I'm sure Andy's happy about that.
Take those numbers, combine it with near 50% shooting from three-point range in their 2 wins. Robert Morris looks tough. They're coming home now for 4 games, so they really have a chance to get out of the gate strong.
Yeah, the UPMC, you know, newly erected UMPC Center, they have a chance to kind of get a little separation from the rest of the pack. You know, start off 5-1, 6-0, and then they'd be in good shape moving forward.
While Robert Morris is off to a 2-0 start, lots of parity otherwise. We do have St. Francis Brooklyn. They won their first game over FDU, but then you have 7 teams at 1-1.
Yeah, so St. Francis Brooklyn, really impressive against FDU. You know, balance has been kind of the name of the game for Glenn Breka. I think he had 5 or 6 guys scoring double figures. Dennis Chelin, kind of that focal point in the middle of that, you know, offense. And then you have guys like Unique McLean and Rob Higgins, a two-way player we've talked about in the Overtime blog. And then, of course, Chauncey Hawkins. You know, balance has been the name of the game for St. Francis Brooklyn. But then, yeah, there's a lot of parity. You look at the 10 games that have already been played, 7 of the road teams have won. The underdogs, according to KenPom, 4 of those teams have won in the 10 times. So, you know, I think the last time we've seen it where the road team has won as much as the home team was in the 2015-2016 season, where road teams went 45-45 in league play. I don't know if you think that's something that we could see moving forward, but there is a lot of parity, you know, 1 through 11 in this league right now.
Obviously, Ryan, we want to talk about Merrimack in their first NEC game. Go down to Fairfield, beat Sacred Heart, an impressive win. Let's get to Merrimack, but let's do it in our Twitter timeout. Twitter timeout is from John McNair. He talks about Merrimack and their defense and what they do to slow teams down and turn teams over. You can see it right there. Ryan, I know you're a Sacred Heart guy. It must have been a tough one, the first game of the year, but you had to have been impressed with what you saw from the Warriors.
Oh, absolutely. I think Joe Gallo, they executed their game plan perfectly because Sacred Heart's one of the quicker teams in the league. They slowed it down. Literally in the first minute, Javaris Hayes gets 2 steals, 2 pick sixes for easy transition layups. And then it's psychological warfare. It gets in Sacred Heart's head. Now they're playing tentative. Now they're winding the shot clock all the way down to like 5-10 seconds. They're taking bad shots. They're making bad passes. And, you know, this zone, you know, you put Watkins and Hayes at the top of that 2-3 attacking zone. The fact that they limited Sacred Heart just 10 3-point attempts is also really impressive. And then, you know, Javaris Hayes, we already talked about him, but 8 steals, you know, several easy transition buckets off those turnovers. You know, 18 turnovers overall for 31 points off those turnovers. It was a wonderful effort from Merrimack in their NEC opener.
Just the timing that a player like Hayes has. it's really amazing to watch him. He almost seems to know what you're going to do before it happens.
Yeah, he never gets sped up by the game. He kind of slows it down and almost lulls you to sleep a little bit, but he has tremendous instincts. He's got that crazy wingspan for a 6-foot guard. And you combine those attributes, you combine his athleticism, his ability to finish, and his ability to kind of manage himself in traffic, and you get a guy who literally is third in the country right now in steal rate at 5.6. He's getting a steal on 5.7% of the opponent's possessions. Think about that. How many minutes he's playing, and he's still able to get that many turnovers. It's incredible.
He's the active steals leader in all of NCAA basketball, approaching 400 for his career. So hats off to Javaris Hayes, and that was this week's Twitter Timeout. One of our favorite segments each week where we highlight an under-the-radar player. This week, we go to Staten Island. Who's it going to be, Ryan?
So I'm gonna give you this Bashir Mason quote. I actually went to the Sacred Heart at Wagner game on Saturday. Terrific game, terrific atmosphere in the TV game, the SNY game. Bashir Mason told me this about Chase Freeman after the game coming off the loss. He's not the biggest, he's not the tallest, he's not the most talented, he's not the most skilled, but we can't, as you can see, take him off the floor. You look at Chase Freeman, in his 10 games this year, he's played, in 7 of those games, he's played at least 36 minutes for the team, but he's been the second most efficient player on the team. He's shooting nearly 40% on his threes. Last 4 games, actually, he's taken care of the ball, 19 assists to 1 measly turnover. He had a 6-0 line against Sacred Heart. He's been, and he provides it on both ends of the floor. He's kind of an in-your-face. He'll guard the opposing point guard. He's really good on the ball defense. So Bashir Mason, he just loves Chase Freeman. He's a terrific system point guard, a really good role player. You surround him with scorers like Curtis Cobb, Alex Morales, and he's the perfect guy for Wagner.
A hustler out there, fan favorite type, who like floor burn guy. Those are the kind of guys you can get behind.
Yeah, he's an easy guy to root for because he works so hard, and it's been a steady progression for him. He didn't have the best year last year, but he's definitely worked on his game, and now he's in a position to be, as we say, an under-the-radar guy, but he's a significant role player on a good team.
On a team that surprised some people with their first game of the year at the Mount, going down to Emmitsburg and winning handily.
Yeah, I know people were surprised with that, but Curtis Cobb had 25 points in that game. This is a talented team, and I think it's taken Bashir Mason some time in the non-conference to kind of figure out. When you have 10 newcomers, it's tough to kind of mix and match. So he's kind of playing mad scientist in a way in that non-conference. So I think Wagner's going to be okay. They're going to be right in the middle of the pack. They're going to be in the thick of it moving forward.
We go from under the radar to our Star Watch. This week, we touched on him before from Robert Morris. Our Star Watch performer is
A.J. Brahma. He's averaging nearly 12.5 points, 8.8 rebounds per game in his last 10 games, playing at least 25 minutes in each of those games. So obviously, Andy Toole trusts him. Coming out of junior college, it takes a little while to get used to the rigors of Division I, and Brahma had a slow start early on, but he's been terrific lately. You gave him the nickname Air Brahma on Twitter. I hope that sticks. That's a really good moniker for him.
Yeah, AJ is such a weapon in transition and off pick and rolls, and having that guy that can finish above the rim. Andy always seems to have somebody that can do that, and it's helpful. And when you have point guards like Tracy and John Williams who can feed him the ball, it's a big weapon.
Yeah, you look at the Merrimack game, one way to attack that Merrimack zone is throw it over the top of it and have Brahma take advantage, finish the alley-oop on the other end. But, one thing that stuck with me with Brahma, when I was researching this team for the Blue Ribbon in the summer, Andy told me that, Brahma, he could guard 1 through 5 on this, on the floor. And so he has that versatility, he has that athleticism where you could switch with him on the perimeter defensively, and you're not going to worry about him being on a shooting guard. You talked about the transition. He's basically, I don't think, if you talk to any random NEC guy, I don't think anyone's going to really know that Brahma is in the top 5 in the league in rebounding, but he's right there at 8.1 rebounds a game. He's 7th in field goal percentage, and he's in the top 20 in scoring, and I only think his scoring is going to get higher as he gets more and more comfortable in Division I.
Real good player, gets you double digits every game, been really consistent throughout the year. AJ Brahma, he's our Star Watch performer this week. Next up is our NEC Play of the Week. We go up to Smithfield. Barn burner, first game of the year, St. Francis University, Bryant. We're in the second half. What do we got?
This was a terrific game, but Hall Elijahs in this game, was showing off his athleticism. You see here, Green, kind of lobs the pass up to him. He saves it from going out of bounds, tips it to Grant, and then Grant feeds the big man right again for the flush, the alley-oop. I mean, just a terrific player. His athleticism really disrupts the game on both ends.
I think Adam Grant also doesn't get enough credit for his passing sometimes. He's been good this year.
Oh yeah, he's stepped up his assist rate this year for sure. I mean, there's always going to be a lot of defensive attention on him. Obviously, he's a great three-point shooter, but he's been more efficient. He's been getting his teammates more involved because they got playmakers around him now in Jared Grasso's second year.
It's time now for NEC milestones. We had 2 major milestones last week, starting with one of our favorites, Jalil Jenkins on FDU.
I love Jenkins' game. I mean, it's fitting he got his 1,000th point on a runner in the lane, taking his defender off the dribble. He's just so quick. He's so crafty, putting the ball on the floor. He's still got 1.5 years left. It's kind of amazing, because he's already a bona fide winner. He's a champion. He's one of the best playmakers in the NEC.
He's really unguardable when you look at him. He's like one of those players that I would hate to be matched up on him because it seems he can get into the paint whenever he wants.
Absolutely. He gets to the rim whenever he wants to. And if you catch Jenkins on a game where he's making his threes, just give up. I mean, you're not going to contain him at all.
From one great player to another, next, Keith Braxton, the reigning NEC Player of the Year. This is a biggie. Grabbed his 1,000th rebound on Saturday against Central Connecticut. How impressive of a feat is this?
I mean, he's 6'4". I mean, maybe he's 6'4". He might be 6'3", but the fact that he's played that stretch 4 position for Rob Krimmel throughout his career, and he's always in the top 30 nationally in rebounding, and he's always the shortest guy on that list. So for him to do that, and then this year he has a different role, right? He's a point guard. He's kind of a point forward, but he's going to be a little more on the perimeter, but he's still grabbing his rebounds with such ferocity.
Absolutely. Keith now in with NEC royalty. You look at the names of the people with 1,000 rebounds. Jalen Cannon was an NEC Player of the Year. Justin Ruddy, a big from Quinnipiac. Ron Robinson from Central Connecticut. And Carrie Scurry from LIU, who played in the NBA. These were 4 bigs. And as you put, Keith Braxton's played everywhere from the 1 to the 4 on this team. It's really amazing. He's piled up those numbers. And now he is closing in on becoming the NEC's first 2,000-point 1,000 rebound player. Unbelievable feat, unbelievable career. We'll be talking more about Keith as we move on throughout the season. Ryan, now's the time where we talk about TV and games to watch. No TV coming up this week, but let's rewind to Saturday. What was the game of the week of the NEC New Year? Down in Emmitsburg, LIU, Mount go to 2 overtimes. Mount pulls it out. Tell me what your thoughts were on this one.
I mean, Damian Chung-Kui, just kind of the leader of that team, 26 points. Jefferson, 23 points, 9 rebounds. I mean, it was a fun up and down game, a lot of athleticism on the floor, a lot of highlight reel type of plays. And Mount St. Mary's, when they make their threes, they're dangerous, and they did make some threes against LIU Brooklyn. They were able to kind of stand toe-to-toe with arguably one of the more talented teams in the league in the Sharks.
Sharks were the preseason favorites, had an off night shooting. I think, that really hurt them from 3-point range. They're going to be fine. They have some of the most talented players in the league. Ty Flowers, Raekwon Clark, 25 in that game. I was down there for that one. Really good way to start off our TV package. Let's look now at 2 games to watch this week. What do you got?
Well, I got for Thursday night, Sacred Heart at Fairleigh Dickinson. Plenty of star power in this one. You look at the point guard matchup. You have Jalil Jenkins, who we talked about, the scoring, playmaking point guard, versus Cam Parker, 3rd in the country in assists per game, the selfless pass-first guy. And then that front court, everyone knows about E.J. Anasicki, Jarrell Spellman. But then you look at Caleb Bishop coming off a 25 and 15 performance at Bryant, and then Elijah Williams, also his front court mate, had a terrific block near the end of that Bryant game that kind of saved the game for the Knights. I'm really looking forward to the star power in this one. There's going to be plenty of offense, plenty of up-tempo basketball.
Yeah, this should be one of the more entertaining games we have on the slate. Excited for that one in Hackensack. For our next game to watch, let's go out to Loretto. Saturday, St. Francis, Brooklyn, at St. Francis University.
2 hot teams. St. Francis Brooklyn's won 4 in a row, 5 of 6. I don't know if many people know that, but they've been playing really well. I think they're 3-0 in games decided by 4 points or less because, Glenn Breka can coach. Everyone knows that. And in St. Francis University, they've won 6 of 7. That setback at Bryant's the only blemish on their record. You look at the matchup, Keith Braxton and Isaiah Blackman in the backcourt. Blackman's coming off an insane week. He was player of the week. Made 12 of 19 from behind the arc. I mean, if you leave him open, just forget about it. He's going to drain it. So I'm looking at the offense-defensive matchup because Rob Higgins, really good defender, Unique McClain, he can use his athleticism. I'm curious how they're going to do against Braxton and Blackman.
Another good NEC Hoops game this weekend. You can watch all 10 games on the slate this week on NEC Front Row for free and on the NEC On the Run series of mobile and streaming apps. That's all we have for this week's edition of the NEC On the Run podcast. Thanks to Ryan Peters for coming in and joining us in studio. Always great to have you here. I'm Ron Ratner. I'll be back next week to bring you everything NEC Hoops.